So I'm creating a project. As usual, theme is set to none. We close the unwanted projects. Since you're familiar with these steps, hopefully you will complete it faster. So I register the launcher activity. Is it the last bench? Can you see the text and is it visible because slightly yellow tint is there? Can you read the text? Okay, so get used to it. This is the one I am going to continue throughout now. Okay, maybe some cable fault, I really don't know. Fine. So trying to attach a layout. Since these exercises nothing I mean specific to do layouts, but still I want to keep something if at all any requirement comes. Layout creates slightly takes time. Set content view. Fine. Json is also a key value pair specific. So of course every value would be tied up with a key. But JSON primarily a string. It means a string has been decorated in such a way we can extract the content from it. I usually give a simple example. If I really want to use the string and I want to convert it as an array, for example, string If you read the sentence, some name hyphen some number hyphen math hyphen pass. You can interpret in such a way. I kept a particular student some mark in his pass or fail or his subject something I have tied up. Maybe I'm trying to say that. So I want to extract the content from it. So what I can do if a string is available in this format, I want Ram Kumar separated and the number separated, math separated and pass separated. I want to get all the content from it. So there is a split argument, I mean functionality is there as far as Java. So I can give a split by hyphen parameter. It means in the string, look for a hyphen and split the string and convert the rest of the string, put it inside an array. So a result, let me put a result as well. This is an array. Sorry, NS. Oh, my emulator is not ready. Need to fire it first. So let the emulator start. So a string can be converted into an array as far as this particular string if it's split by a hyphen. Then the whole string becomes an array. So this array of 0 index, the value would be Ram. Array of first index, the value would be this, and subsequent values would be math and pass would be there in this array. So I have used a string, but I made it as a array. So preference manager, since does not have a capability to save an array, I need to depend on a string. So a string should be converted back as an array if there is any matching condition exist. In this case, hyphen, it's split by an hyphen. So I can easily get it. But there is a problem with this format. I can use it, but the problem is I don't know Ram Kumar is of what type, or this particular number is what type, what kind of attribute it is representing, and math is what. So I can still make it. Can I make this? It's slightly now meaningful. Now name mean this one, mark mean this one. If you notice this particular string, the first line I am splitting it by a hyphen. So array of 0 index, what will be the value? Name colon Ram Kumar. I need to remove the colon also now. Pardon? I want to remove the colon also. Okay, as you suggest. I make it as a B. This is a string because the first instance is going to be string. I need to convert it Now I need to iterate again. What is the content here? What I'll be getting? What will be the inner loop would be printing? What will be the inner loop? Mean this particular loop is going to print something. Can you tell me what it will be? Pardon? Name? That's it? Name Ramkumar, that's it, it's over. Mark? And so remember, I need to do a slightly complex approach if I follow this format. Extracting the content and keeping it into a relevant place, it's always difficult, but you could still do it by reading the format of the string. You first interpret, okay, so the content is scattered like this. So each string separated by hyphen gives me a key and value together. Now I need to separate the key and the value. Again you put one more split statement and separate the name and Ramkumar for a first index, I mean zeroth index, and accordingly split. So your values will be there in the particular index value 1. Your key would be there at the index 0. So like that you can separate and get back your information display wherever it is required. This is a simple approach, but it may have some flaws. When you have a complex data, having your own way of building your string may not be good. Hence, to avoid it, we have a formatted string called Json, and we interpret in such a way. Java gives us various objects such as JSON array and JSON object. We can make use of it, and we can store whatever, or it may be a complex data type, I can still store it. What kind of a problem with this format? If you say mark is 1120, but I want to say marks are quite random, so what, so if the format is like this, because I want to show the marks of the particular student and I want to display the individual marks also. Now you have to think of very complex logics in order to extract the data from it. So your idea of making formatting your own way of string may not be suitable one beyond to a particular limitation. JSON gives us a specific format. JSON, what do we call? JavaScript. It means a kind of a object notation. It's not an object at all. First point, you need to understand that it is just a representation. Typically, it is a string as far as Java. For example, a JSON string as far as Java is just a string only. And a JSON string, if I say it is string, and that has to be converted into a Java array or specific array format which Java accept, then we can take to a respective, for example, the previous case it was adapter which was requiring a hash map of array list in order to display the data. So I need to convert the string into according to my format, according to a Java specific format in order to display. Of course, you are doing here converting a string into a Java specific object. Of course, the whole string was converted into an array and get back an individual item, and of course supply key value and try to identify what item it is. Similarly, a JSON is going to be, let me see first, my emulator is ready. I already messed it up. I don't know how it is going to work. Because the data format be slightly modified. Let me put it back. Still, let me see what kind of error. Okay, some errors were there. Let me see. Index array out of bound exam. Of course, my way of interpreting may be slightly wrong. Let me identify. So now I got it. So put it back. Length to index to something. I'm running the loop out of index. Let me see what exactly. Yeah, that's the problem. Now I should get back the content as specified. For example, first row display the full object and individual one split across. So understanding extracting the content from a string is a way of handling the data. For example, JSON or XML usually considers a cross-platform communication language or markup types, because if you have a different environment creating a different data type which may not be suitable for the target programming language. For example, your program may be running in a Linux machine which produce some sort of output specific to some object of that particular operating system may not be suitable for a Windows, which something runs on a different operating system. In order to avoid it, to fill the gap, we have a cross-platform language data type defined. Of course, XML was widely used once upon a time. Right now, the particular thing replaced by JSON now. It's nothing but both or almost all the programming languages have a concept called a string. So a data can be sent as a simple text format, and the format could be interpreted in such a way at the target machine, and it could be extracted by supplying the key and retrieving the value associated with that. So in this case, the keys are name, mark, subject, status. So I'm going to define a specific format now. I'm going to put a JA, so you're going to interpret it as a JSON string. Usually JSON strings, you should be very careful by reading it. JSON string is a formatted string. If anything specified within the curly brace, it's an object. Anything specified within the curly brace is an object. Anything specified within the square box is an array. This is our basic understanding about a JSON object. If you notice something wrapped by a square box, you need to understand it as a array. If it is uh, wrapped by a curly brace, we should interpret it as a object. For example, the same one I'm going to write I need to escape the string because within quotation I am using, so I'm escaping it, and the above one I am replacing with a JSON specific format, and you will see how easy it is to extract the data. So name Ramkumar, similarly above what we wrote, separated by a comma, mark, mark could be a number itself, so I don't need any quotations. The above example which I created by simple, according to my understanding, split by hyphen and try to build a string, and from there I try to interpret in the previous example which simply split by a hyphen and then inner object split by a colon. But in this case the same exact equivalent, but I have written as a JSON formatted one, because it's going to be very easy in order to follow this way, because Java already have a built-in support for JSON object creation. I mean encoding and decoding, both the libraries Java already has a built-in support. Whereas this one, encoding decoding, it is my own custom one. You need to write a specific Java classes in order to achieve it. But still I cannot assure you data is completely extracted quite easily. So it is a JSON formatted one. Now how I am going to extract it? First build a JSON object instance, because it's a JSON object for me because it starts with the curly brace. From the string, new JSON object from string. By calling this, of course, this will throw a exception, so surrounded with a try catch block, because sometime the JSON may be a impure one which may not be properly formatted. That time it is better to have an exception block. try to see any error comes. So Java, of course, Eclipse will give you a suggestion to keep the respective try catch blocks. So make sure you put it inside a try. Fine. So now I need to extract it. I'll copy the same one. Get string, supply the key name. Now you will have anything associated with the key would be printed. In this case is Ram Kumar, and then mark subject with a few lines of code. By simply supplying the key, by reading the format, you are seeing, okay, this is the key and this is the key and this is the key. You can easily interpret it by reading itself. So supplying the key, you create an instance of JSON object. See, remember, this JSON object is something to do with the Java type, because Java creates a JSON object from the string you supply, and created the object, all it need are keys, then it will retrieve the values. So let me run the code. If you notice, the values simply are extracted like Ramkumar, number, some math or pass, everything. Simply in few lines of code, we extracted the content from it. First point, it is because of JSON. It is easy to write. Now, I'm going to make slightly complex. I'm going to remove 1000, 1100. Sorry. Chemistry, something like that. I have slightly broken it. Name Ramkumar hasn't been changed, but whereas the mark now contains a curly brace, and inside there is couple of other key values exist. Where a subject hasn't been modified, status hasn't been modified. Now, how I can extract the physics mark? I want to know what is the person Ramkumar has secured and how much he secured in the subject physics. How can I get it now? How can I get it? First I'll run it. Where's the logcat? This is the result I am getting. Name Ramkumar came, but whereas the mark right now something curly brace, within that there is a physics, and math passed. Of course, that is quite simple. How I can get the mark he secured in physics? Any suggestions? First interpretation, by seeing the JSON itself. One, the key name contains a value is of type string. I can see it. Whereas a key called mark contains a value is of type another object because it's a curly brace. And whereas the key subject contains a value is of type string. And of course status is a key contains a value of string. So I have no problem for name, subject, status because I know all are strings. But whereas this particular mark gives me another JSON object. So for this particular part, let me have it. So I'm going to build where is a mark object. I built a new instance of a JSON object called mark JSON object, and from the JSON object I pass the key called mark. In other words, I will again get back another JSON object. Yes. Yeah. So now I need to print that. What else we have? Math. So it's fairly straightforward. By seeing it, I understood the key attribute. If I supply mark, it doesn't give me string in this case. For me, I am going to get one more JSON object. That JSON object in turn again be iterated and supplying the key called, in this case, physics phy I have written, and in turn that will give me a, oh, of course it is an integer, so it's a number. So instead of string, to get int. Yeah. So the log w only will accept string. So what I can do, concatenate with the empty string will make it string. This is also one of a polymorphism example. Anything connected with the, for example, two numbers with the plus symbol adds it, a number with anything string concatenated. So behavior of polymorphism here also we can see. So I just made it as a string, but of course the value is going to be retrieved as an integer. Let me run, forget it. I think I have already got it. If you notice that particular JSON object now extracted, now the physics, chemistry, max value is also being printed here. First point, building this way helps me to build a complex data type with a simple string itself. A string can be used to represent a complex data type. And with the help of suggestion or the rules and definition given by JSON usually it's a kind of open source format. Yahoo made it quite popular. Once upon a time, Yahoo was actively using the JSON format for their websites and their web services, and eventually that became quite popular, and then it is widely considered as one of a lightweight way of handling the data between cross platforms. It's widely used nowadays. Most of the SOAP or REST-based web services right now contain JSON response as well, and most of the corporates are almost migrated to JSON-specific data exchanges. The previous one was XML was used for the same purpose, but XML parsing was usually considered as a heavyweight one. We need to read through each node and get it, child node, root node. We need to understand, extract the data from it. Instead, a simple string can be built in such a way a complex data can be packed and can be extracted. For example, a server all need to create this string and send it to any, so for example, in this case, phone also. A phone can pick the string and convert it to a specific format and display wherever it is necessary. Building this kind of strings, JSON string, is called JSON encoding. Reading the content from this particular string format is called JSON decoding. So encoding, decoding. Java has libraries to encode a JSON, and of course it also has a JSON decode. Of course, what we serve is JSON decoding. So this particular whole part is called JSON decoding. Encoding we manually did, but instead I'm going to make it as a Java specific encoding. Okay, so this is a slightly a complex data type as we understand. This is for one particular person. For your reference, I'll give one more example, but I'm not going to write it. You just need to give me a suggestion. Screen resizing is really bad one. Okay, so I'm going to build a string C. For your understanding, I'll split them. The plus not to be confused with that, so it is for your reading purpose alone. Carefully read this. What is the key result contains what kind of data type? Result gives me what? Is it array? Why? Square bracket. So obviously we understand. If I try to get a data with the key having result, I would be getting a JSON array. One. Okay. Now I've got a JSON array. What is next? JSON array array itself mean it is a iteration block, looping one. So I need to send it to a loop and supply the key. So the same thing, I'm going to use a different formatter. So JSON object as usual, new JSON object from the string what we are just holding, and of course this is the try catch one. A JSON object has just been built. Now I need another JSON object. I need a JSON array, of course. Get JSON array. Are you getting my point here? First I build a JSON object with the string what is applied, and then I create a JSON array. So from the JSON object I am looking for a JSON array having a key called result. So now the whole bunch of object has got compiled into an array. In few lines of code, a simple string got converted into an array. Now put into a for loop. You will okay. From the JSON array, each iteration has a JSON object. That's the reason from the JSON array, I am expecting a JSON object of each index. From the index, I get from the object, I have a string with a key supplied name. This is how my data looks like. First, I need to get the array which is specified with the key result. Once I get the array, I iterate it over. Each array having a JSON object. From the JSON object, supply the particular key called name in this case and get back each name. By seeing the syntax, you have to create the respective object. It is not one format anymore. This is a fixed one. After object, it should be an array. No. You need to read the syntax, see the JSON and how it is formatted. Accordingly, make use of whether object or array. So that's where the challenging part comes. So now I saw, okay, result is a object to start with. I don't know what kind of object. Now I realize, okay, so result have everything defined within the square box. So result is going to give me a JSON array. So that's the reason. Very first step would be building a JSON object. Naturally, of course, we have to build it. From the JSON object, I am looking for a JSON array having a key called result. And then I build an array and iterate it over, and each array element does contain a curly brace. That's the reason. So if it is contain a curly brace, naturally it's a JSON object, and from the JSON object I get the string. So let me run. So I extracted those names. Now Let me build it from the beginning. So starting with the curly brace, so naturally it's a JSON object. Instead of playing from my thing, I'll go back Google map JSON. Let us see how you guys are interpreting the Google map data. Okay, this looks. This is a typical JSON formatted one, slightly a complex one. By seeing it, you have to spend some time. First point. The whole bunch is there within the curly brace because the curly brace starts and ends. So it's everything is a JSON object first. And there is a key called type. And in my understanding, it is returning a string. There is a key called features that returns what? Array. And each occurrence of that array contains what? Each occurrence of that array contains a JSON object. Each JSON object has a string defined with a key type, and another one geometry returns one more JSON object. In that JSON object, there is a key called coordinates returns a JSON array. You see how they pack the data. The JSON object, array combined and everything, and finally Google gives me a bunch of data, and it is you need to build a specific decoding methodology by duly verifying how things have been laid out. You won't see anything else other than the curly brace and the boxes. Rest is all same, string or integer is going to be there. But where the curly box comes, where the square box comes, and that's where you need to use a Java specific JSON array or JSON object. And this is how we interpret it. Can you decode this string? Can you extract the data from it? At least give me a guidance. Seems to be quite big. Type geometry, type sometime contains string coordinates, properties. Let me take up to here. Wait, let me complete it. Let me complete it few minutes because I need to format it because something is missing here. Geometry what? type, which type? Ah, cool. That's pretty nice. Still, I'm not comfortable. Something throwing error. Okay, I'll remove up to this. There should be a hack for this. These guys won't accept. Okay, at least let me build. This copy pasting is slightly difficult. So let me build a specific array for you for a better understanding. Now can you tell me what is the key result would return? JSON object. From the JSON object, if I supply a key name, what I will be getting? In the occurrence of JSON array, if I supply last name, what I will get? String. So the obvious thing would be start with the JSON object. I'm going to give a result object or whatever name, or result JSON object if you want. Build the base from, sorry, first to make it as JSON object itself, because the whole thing is covered, the whole bunch itself, because the very first curly brace is now converted into a JSON object. So try catch. Once that object ready, now I can create one more JSON object that I can give result JSON object. That result JSON object is available inside the JSON object instance what we create, and get what? Get case JSON object, because we do understand inside the result there is an object exist. So result, now whole bunch, the result is converted into a JSON object. Now the JSON object result JSON object contains one more JSON object inside. Am I right? Right or wrong? Okay. So I'm going to say name JSON object in this case. So now I need to use result JSON object get what? One second. Result now, oh, name is an array, so I need to make it as a JSON. Name JSON array, get JSON array having caps are small. Caps. Now from the JSON name JSON array, I need to iterate it over. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to put a log statement. I want only last name. So from the JSON array, tell me what should I do? I need a last name alone. Get string. I have access to a JSON array which is having the key name. Inside JSON array, what you have? Object. First we need to get the JSON object. Sorry. First get me the instance. Sorry, get JSON object is here. From the JSON object, I am looking for a string having a key called last name. Now I will have the last name extracted from it. So by seeing the JSON formatted string, you are building the specific object to and fro. I have no specific reason I have to follow JSON object then result. No, could be a array, could be an object at any type based on the encoding followed. So I did a lot of encoding, different encoding here. So based on that you have to apply it. So far what we have seen is a JSON decoding. Mean a JSON formatted string was there. I converted into a Java specific objects. I made it as a string or integer or something like that. So what we have just completed is a JSON decoding. How to do the JSON encoding? You want to see the exercise completed, then go to an encoding, or shall I just complete it? I complete it because it has a relevance. So let me complete. Or probably I may use. Okay, I'll do it here itself. I don't want to. Right now we are going to do the JSON encoding. JSON encoding means building this string. From your Java data, Java object, you need to build this string, this kind of string. Reverse process. Remember, I wrote these two methods in the previous shopping list app which did the same, but right now I am just seeing one by one in detail, but which we already completed. But for your better clarity, I am extracting each and every element and giving you in detail explanation. Now I am going to do the encoding part. I may have various type of data. It may be array list, it may be a normal array, it could be anything which may require a conversion. So assume I have a array list, a complex data type as I think right now is a hash map only. Otherwise, if I create my own object, naturally I would end up creating one more class which I want to avoid at this point. So I'm going to keep a hash map string. I'm going to keep it as an object because I may have a numbers, I may have strings mixed together. So I'm just making it as just an object since I do not know the type. I'm going to make it as a items. So I'm going to initialize them. Just initialization. Remember, this is a Java data type. So array list of hash map we have in Java data type. Let me put some test contents. Let me put a hash map instead of items. We will keep students itself. Okay. This is one set. So I'm going to attach to students. Add. The first set of record has got added. I'm going to repeat it. Three records got added. Right now, if I see students may contain three set of data, each occurrence is an hash map. I want to convert the whole bunch into a JSON. So that's my requirement. First, let me see what is the content it has. Maybe, of course, by seeing itself, I can notice an array list called students is having three set of data. One set reserved for a student named Ramkumar and his attributes follows, and another set like this. So everywhere I am adding the hash map, creating an instance and adding a hash map with the different values. So three records are there. So index start from 0, 1, 2. Now I need to encode this into a JSON format. I need to convert it to a string, but properly formatted. So how I can do it? It looks like an array, simple array. Create an empty JSON array. Create an empty JSON object. First set I'm going to insert. Let me put it into a for loop instead of manually doing it. Since it is arrayless, length won't work, size you need to use. Every occurrence of a students should, every occurrence mean every index has a JSON object, and that object has each string, mark, sub, status keys. That's the reason the JSON array I specified outside of this loop, because the whole bunch it's a JSON array, and remaining is going to be the objects. Okay, now JSON object put get object key. Should have made it as a constant, but anyway, fine. This will throw a try catch. Name. Now a JSON object has got created, and finally add the object, every object occurrence to a JSON array. That also having a put only. Not to be confused, both has a put, but one difference is one full JSON object is created and then finally added to a JSON array every time with the occurrence of a array list. Now a JSON array has got created. Where the loop ends, here it ends. Okay. Now toString means the particular, see the same habit. will get converted to a string. Now I'm going to run this. I'm getting not. You see why I'm not getting it. Hash map is got added, JSON array. I don't see any error. I think it's here. If you notice this, the encoded one, your array list of hash map has got converted into a JSON specific format. If you notice, a curly brace, sorry, a square bracket to start with, and strings created accordingly, name, mark, and everything, and separated by comma. So the base one is a JSON array, and inside the JSON array there is couple of objects. Each objects contain specific key and values. So occurrence of an object index 0 will, you can get back the string of a particular person name by supplying the key name, and like that. So right now it has built a JSON for you. Instead we manually create. The previous exercise we had a manually created JSON one that we converted into a Java specific format, whereas this one we had a Java specific array list of hash map, and that has got converted into a JSON array. Okay, how I can encode it, decode it? Can anyone tell me how I can decode it again? The root node is a square box. So tell me, the starting one, yeah, so JSON array, get a instance, say I'll give a base JSON array, whatever, new JSON array with the string what you get. Of course, the in this case the string is nothing but this one. It allows a throw catch struct. The most of the previous exercise we had a JSON object to be created to start with, because everything started with the curly brace. But whereas this particular object created here doesn't have it, so I need to initialize JSON array to start with from the string what I am getting. From the JSON array, base array, then get to JSON object, then get what? The first one for name. I'm going to give it as a name. Remember, each is a set. So another one is what? Mark or what? Status. Let me see one more time. Status subject. Mark is an integer type. So as I already know, I need to have it as a string in order to display in log. So now I can get back each occurrences. Okay, I've got it. So the first one for name, status, mark gets repeated. The data has been extracted as well. So now I know how to decode it and encode it. Decoding, encoding doesn't have any fixed format. First point, it is your application and what kind of data you are building. Based on that, you are going to decode it or encode it. I'm not going to say to start with there should be a JSON object and then followed by JSON array. No, it could be a JSON array, JSON object mixed together, nested, or anyway, anything can be repeated. But you should carefully build a JSON object. Most of our previous exercise was pretty straightforward. I had a shopping list item. So shopping list item had item name, item ID, item description, item quantity, and something it had. So each item is a JSON object for me, and I put them into a JSON array. So I extracted and display it. So I encode finally as a JSON string and save it into a preference manager. We know how to save in a preference manager. Preference manager can save a string so easily. So this whole bunch is a string only. I'm saving it. And I am retrieving it and decode it and display it to a list view. And when I add it, I encode it, again save it into a preference manager. That was the last exercise we did. And this is the breakup of the same. So I just broke into pieces and to give a clear explanation about how a JSON object works. Remember, JSON object is a notation base. It's just a interpretation. It's a way you write it. So typically, which is Java equivalent string only. It's a notation. You form the string in such a way you can bundle the data and extract the data. Bundle mean if you feel different, encode it, decode it. In that way you can take it. So JSON is pretty straightforward because it is easy to use a string as a object and easily we can save it in a preference manager. And again take the string, put into a JSON decoder, convert into a Java array list and attach to adapter, display in the list view. Job done, can be displayed. When a new item is getting added, build a JSON object and convert the existing array list into a JSON object, save it into a preference manager and do vice versa. So that was the last exercise. If you see the previous code, you can very well understand what is the strategy I adapted. Let me open that code as well. Let me see where it is. Yeah, shopping list version 2. In this exercise, the shopping list activity has a list view. We all know, of course, I'm planning to use a simple adapter. So a simple adapter, what it requires, in order to data to be displayed on the simple adapter, I need an array list of hash map, which is a Java specific data type. Okay. Array list of hash map cannot be saved in the preference manager. That is obvious reason. We have to convert the array list of hash map into a JSON object. JSON string. So that JSON string can be converted. That part is defined here. Convert array to a JSON. If you notice, it is a hash map. items, and using a JSON encoding technology or whatever strategy we adjusted, I put that and convert into a JSON array and finally make it as a string. So a whole bunch of array lists got converted into a JSON string, and of course that can be stored in the preference manager. You may notice that that code I may be having here and there, so where it is getting saved. Okay, that is about saving. How to retrieve it back? So let me see how I am doing. So get array from JSON. This is a reverse one. It means from the JSON string, build a array list of hash map. So get array from JSON, where it is this method. Get array from JSON. Of course, the preference will have a string, and that string I have given the name just JSON. And now I build a empty array list of hash map and go through every occurrences of a JSON array. Of course, I build a JSON array from the string like a few minutes before what we did, and extract the data from the JSON array and again combine it to a hash map and finally add it to a array list. And now this loop, when it is completed, I will have an array list of hash map created, and that array list of hash map goes and gets attached to an adapter. So these two techniques back to back I have used in order to save and retrieve the data. That was the last exercise. So I gave a breakup. How I did it. So I gave a various breakup, various examples, and as far as how I handle the JSON in order to convert into a string so that a preference manager can simply save it. That's the only one strategy I adopted. Do you have any question on JSON now? At least your understanding is better than before. That's what needed. Of course, you need to take it forward. I'm not going to expect 100% you understood. Question would be there. Let it be. But at least put it into a right direction. Now, try to build exercises and try to see how it's been built and try to do it your own, and things will get clear. Okay, I'll put the source code in the website and do this exercise and make sure you guys get a clear picture on how a JSON object and conversion and back forth, how things are happening. Once you are comfortable, we'll again go back to a shopping list version 2. Or maybe 2.1, I will say, because right now only added the I could only add the item. I need to give a edit and delete features also to the shopping list, so I'm going to extend it to another version. If time permits, we will do it today, otherwise we'll do it tomorrow. But at this point, we should have a very clear picture on how JSON and preference manager works. Okay, so we do this exercise. I'll put the source code in the developer portal.